Hi everyone and welcome to Lipstick on a Rig. Today we're going to be making this two-tone beanie, but you can also make a solid color beanie just like this. And for this project I was using size 4 medium weight acrylic yarn. If you're going to be making this as a solid color, you will need 2 strands of that same color, so you can just take one skein and divide it in half, or go ahead and buy 2 skeins of it. And for this particular project, I was using a size F or 5 crochet hook, as well as a size J or 6 Tunisian crochet hook with the hook ends at both sides. The size F or 5 crochet hook I only used to make the brim, and you could easily make the brim with your Tunisian crochet hook, no problem. And one thing to note, I made 2 different size brims so you can kind of see the difference here. So for this brim, this is 20 stitches long, and for this brim, it's 15, so you can kind of get an idea. And both of these brims ended up being folded in half as well. And if you haven't already, then please check out the precursor to this video, and that is my How to Crochet a Beanie Brim. And I will link to that in the description. And this brim is 15 stitches deep and roughly 16 inches wide. And from here, we're going to join these 2 edges together like I show you how to do in that precursor video. And once you've joined your 2 edges together, go ahead and place your Tunisian crochet hook in that same loop where you left off. And I did not chain at the end of this row. From here, I went ahead and folded my brim up to hide that ridge, and I went ahead and sectioned my brim off into 4 equal parts. So from here, we are basically going to start to Tunisian Simple stitch 71 stitches going all the way around our row. So for this portion, you're going to need your other strand of yarn. So to get started, what you're going to want to do is insert your crochet hook into an available loop on both edges of your brim here, just like that. And then all you're going to do is just yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So now you should have 2 loops on your crochet hook. Then you're going to insert your crochet hook into the next set of available loops and do the exact same thing. And you might notice that these loops are very tight because you were using a small crochet hook and now you're using a much larger one. That's fine. Just try to wiggle your crochet hook in there and it should work out. So for every Tunisian Simple stitch, you should add a loop to your crochet hook. And I just went ahead and added 13 loops, but you can add as many as you feel comfortable with. And if you're very new to Tunisian crochet, then just add a few loops at a time. So once you have your set number of loops on your crochet hook, go ahead and push them over to the other side, and then we are going to turn our work like this. From here, grab your next color, and all you're going to do is just simply yarn over with it and drop 2 loops at a time. So there you can see I just yarned over and I dropped 2 of my loops. So now I'm just going to hold on to this tail for a few more stitches while I yarn over and drop 2 more loops again and again and again. And this is a lot easier to do if you only have a few loops on your crochet hook. So just kind of keep that in mind. And you're going to want to do this until only 2 loops remain on your crochet hook. And once you get back down to the last 2 loops, then go ahead and start working that same stitch again. And just a reminder, your goal is to get 18 stitches in these first 3 sections, and then in this last section, your goal is to get 17 stitches. And that way you'll have a total of 71 stitches when you get to the end of your row. So go ahead and continue to place your Tunisian Simple stitch all the way around your row. And once you have your 71 stitches, it should look like this. So from here, what I want you to do is find these vertical loops going up like this. And there should be one on the back and one on the front for each of your simple stitches. So from here, we're going to be working in these vertical loops going all the way around our row. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to Tunisian Simple stitch 2 stitches together at a time. But for this project, we are going to yarn over the opposite way that we normally would. So this is how we would normally yarn over, where we run our crochet hook up underneath our working yarn. We're going to do it the opposite. So we're actually going to run our working yarn up underneath our crochet hook like this. So you're going to have to hold that in place with your index finger while you work this project. So from here, holding onto that yarn over like before, you're going to insert your crochet hook up underneath 2 of these vertical loops right here. So like that, and then like that. And then you're going to yarn over like normal and pull through those 2 loops. So now you should have 4 loops on your crochet hook, 3 that are your current color and 1 that's your background color. And so again, you're going to yarn over the opposite way. And then you're going to insert your crochet hook up underneath the next 2 vertical loops. Yarn over like normal, pull through those 2 loops. So for every Tunisian simple stitch 2 stitches together, you should have 2 loops on your crochet hook. And once you have a few stitches on your crochet hook like this, then what you're going to want to do is turn your work once again, and we are going to be dropping 2 loops at a time once again. So this first set of loops should be very easy because it's just from your Tunisian simple stitch from the previous row. But from here, it might be a little bit confusing because as you can see, we have this yarn that's crossing over itself like that. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to drop this loop and this loop the next time you drop your 2 loops. And so this second loop is going to be the one that is crossing over this other loop here. So it might be tucked around back. Sometimes that happens. So it'll be back here and it just looks like this. And then it's really easy to drop the wrong loop. So go ahead and make sure that you've pulled that one forward, and then you're going to yarn over and drop this loop. And it might be helpful at first to just use your fingers to drop that second loop. And then the next set of loops should be fairly simple again, because it's just a regular loop that doesn't have anything crossing over it. And then the next set of stitches that you drop, it'll be that crossover again. And you're always going to want to make sure that you have 2 loops remaining on your crochet hook before you start your next section. And so again, we're just going to continue following that pattern of that kind of funky yarn over, and then we're going to Tunisian simple stitch 2 stitches together at a time. So go ahead and repeat that process for all the stitches in your row. So when you get to the end of your row, you should have 1 remaining Tunisian simple stitch before you start to see these V's forming. And this can become extremely confusing because this very last Tunisian simple stitch can almost look like one of your V's. But you can tell the difference because these have this second stitch pulling them up and this one does not, as you can tell here. But if your count was slightly off and you ended up having an even number, then you will have 2 remaining Tunisian simple stitches here. If that happens, you don't have to start completely over, just go ahead and skip one of them. So for this next row, we are going to be working the exact same stitch as we were last row, but the difference is where we're going to place it. So what you're going to do to place this stitch is go ahead and yarn over the opposite way like we've been doing. Then insert your crochet hook up underneath that Tunisian simple stitch. Then what you're going to want to do is insert your crochet hook up underneath this right loop of your V here. Just like that. Then yarn over and pull through. And then from here we're going to be working into these 2 stitches. So that's the left side of our V and the right side of our next V. So go ahead and yarn over the opposite way like we've been doing. Then insert your crochet hook up underneath both of those loops just like before, and then yarn over and pull through. And that's going to be your pattern for the rest of the row and for all of your remaining rows. So just go ahead and do this as many times as you feel comfortable having on your crochet hook, and then you're just going to want to turn your work. And then just like before, you're just going to want to drop 2 loops at a time. And just like our last row, you're going to want to make sure that you're dropping this stitch that's crossing over before this other stitch. So if you have to use your thumb or your fingers to do that, that's completely fine, but just make sure that you are dropping your loops in that order. And this is the entire pattern. So we're just going to keep repeating this pattern over and over and over again to build the body of our beanie. I went ahead and repeated that pattern for an additional 20 rows, but of course you can always alter this depending on how slouchy you want your beanie. So to finish this off, all I'm going to do is drop my last 2 loops like that and then cut and tie off my yarn. And I'm going to cut this other strand as well, and then I'm just going to secure these 2 strands together. And I went ahead and cut a strand of yarn that is roughly 2 feet in length. And all I'm going to do is just run this strand of yarn up underneath these vertical loops going all the way along the top of our beanie here. So just like that. So you're sort of just going to be creating a drawstring with these. And once you're done running that strand of yarn through these loops, then all you're going to want to do is just pull these two yarn ends really nice and tight like this. And we're just going to simply tie them together, and keep in mind that you can break your yarn strand during this step, so just try to be vigilant and not over tighten it. And once you're done, it should look like this if you were doing a two-tone look, or this if you were using a solid color. And in the description, I will link to my DIY pom-pom maker. Please let me know in the comments below if you experienced any issues while you were making these, and I will do my best to help you out. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Lipstick on a Rig. Thank you so much for working with me, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.